What is up? We just got huge fight announcements for the Fight Night in Vancouver, Canada, going on October 18th. This just got announced today. On Tuesday, the day I'm recording this, this may come out a few days later, but we found out that the main event is going to be Reinier de Ridder versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And this is a pretty sick fight. So I didn't expect this matchup. I thought there would be a cool matchup for sure, just because these guys are both on really impressive win streaks right now. RDR has fought 4 times this year, coming off a win against Robert Whitaker where he won split decision. Still an impressive win for sure. Before that, he TKO'd Bo Nickel, and then before that submitted Kevin Holland and submitted GM3. So coming off a nice win streak, an impressive run right now for sure. And so is Anthony Hernandez. He's looked amazing. His cardio is phenomenal, and he's coming off a very, very impressive win against Roman de Ridder, where he just absolutely dog walked him and just destroyed him in every turn. Very impressive for both guys, and it's going to be a very interesting fight. I was hoping to do a video where I went over, all the different UFC middleweight fights that they could do. I wasn't going to pair RDR with Fluffy Hernandez. I was going to do RDR versus Khamzat Chimaev, just because that kind of made sense to me, since Chimaev was talking about returning in October for UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi. So it made sense just to put RDR on the card with that, or that would be Chimaev's first defense, title defense against RDR, since RDR has stayed very active, and I guess Chimaev sounds like he wants to stay active, but we'll see what happens with that. This is a sick fight. I'm really excited for this. I wouldn't have put these two guys together, to be quite honest, just because it's killing off one prospect. And I wanted to see both these guys fight for the title, honestly. I wasn't really hoping for this kind of fight, but I'll still go over all my middleweight fights that I want to see in the coming year, or a few months or something, whatever it may be. I just think it might be interesting, some of these fights that we can be making in this division. So it's pretty exciting what's going on in this division. You can kind of just see the stats that I'm going over with each guy. Fluffy landing over or a lot more significant strikes, almost double actually that of RDR. And yeah, you can just kind of see what we're looking at. Grappling, So it looks like Anthony Hernandez is probably going to have a slight edge in this fight. Just with the grappling and the volume and just kind of wearing down RDR as this fight progresses. And I don't know, it's a little worrying for both guys, because I like both these guys, and like I said, I would like to see them both fight for a title. But unfortunately, one of them has to lose, and one of them is going to go on to fight Khamzat. It's a tough one to pick. Early thoughts on this, I'm probably going to go RDR. Even though Fluffy has looked amazing, and that cardio advantage he's going to have over RDR is going to be there, it's just the size advantage that RDR has, the pressure he's going to put on him, the knees to the body is going to really wear down that gas tank of Fluffy. And that is like the one way to just destroy somebody's ability to push a pace, is to invest into the body and break them down. But that's the thing, like, both these guys are going to break each other down, and that's what's kind of what's worrying and also interesting in this fight, because Fluffy will have an insane pace that he's going to put on RDR, and probably cause a lot of issues early on in the fight. But I think if RDR can kind of bounce back a little bit, where he can get his strikes in and also land the body with that knee that he has, I think he could really, really break down Fluffy as the fight progresses, and I could see a late fight TKO for RDR. I don't see this fight going to decision whatsoever. I would be shocked if this goes to a decision, just because of these fighters just being so, just, I guess, pressure heavy. I know RDR may not be the most pressure heavy guy, but he is a similar fight style to someone like DDP, where he really presses forward and will break down his opponent. We saw this against Bo Nickel, which, I mean, it's Bo Nickel at the end of the day. Not a very impressive win, but still, we saw it against Robert Whittaker, where he was just kind of wearing on him, really broke him down. And I think if, Fluffy can mix in the takedowns, which he did against Reinier de Ridder, and really not give any room for our RDR to kind of get a breather, because, he could pull a similar move like he did against de Ridder, where he just takes him down, doesn't engage in the grappling, as RDR has very slick jiu-jitsu, and just lets him stand up and then just pressure him, take him down again, and just do the same thing, rinse and repeat, like he did to de Ridder. I think it could be very successful, as we've seen RDR kind of wilt in the past, and one I've seen against someone who is most likely on performance-enhancing drugs, but still nonetheless was overwhelmed and eventually finished in both instances that he fought that guy. That's the only 2 losses that RDR actually has. As for Anthony Hernandez, his losses, here, I'll pull it up right here. So I think he's lost against Kevin Holland, actually, which is kind of insane. Yeah, Kevin Holland knocked him out back in 2020, so you don't really put too much, emphasis on that. Like, this was kind of just like the point where Hernandez wasn't really in the best state of his fighting style yet. I mean, this was, wow, it was a 39-second fight. Kind of crazy. But yeah, I'll have to watch more fights and see how Hernandez does. Obviously, oh yeah, he's coming off a win against Brandon Allen too. I totally forgot about that one, which he didn't look too impressive, because I guess he was like sick and then also had like a broken rib, so maybe don't put too much into that. The Pereira fight, Michel Pereira, that was a pretty it was a very dominant fight from Hernandez. In the first round, he looked pretty rough, but then he kind of, was able to survive and just slowly just destroy Pereira, and eventually TKO him in the 5th round, which took quite a while for him to do. Same thing with Reinier de Ridder, even though it was a complete dominance, and I think a lot more impressive than it was against Michel Pereira. It was until the 4th round when he got that submission. So I'll just go over RDR's wins real quick. As you can see, in the UFC, it's only going to show that, but he's coming off a 4-fight win streak just in this year, which is kind of insane. The activity level that we've seen from RDR, and he's going to be fighting for a 5th time. Very, very impressive. Both guys should get a lot of props for this, being very active and staying active and wanting to fight one another and not just dodging and, kind of waiting it out until they get the title shot or something. So you got to give them some props for this, for taking this fight, and it's going to be hype. I'm really excited for this. I really don't know who wins, but, I'm leaning towards RDR just because of those kind of things I've seen, but I'll have to watch a lot more film and kind of break this down a lot more. But this is a tough fight. This is a very interesting fight where both guys can have success in breaking down one another, and it's pretty much whoever breaks first is going to lose, because these guys are going to be that pressure heavy. Like, this is going to be just two forces just colliding, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a really, really great fight, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's go over to the UFC middleweight division real quick, and we can kind of see what we're looking at for possible matchups after this, or I mean just in the future. Like I said, I was going to go over and make some matchups in the middleweight division just to kind of, see what we could, or kind of predict what we could see in the coming months or so. So we know Kyle Brahalo is fighting Nasruddin Imavov at UFC Paris. Now, whoever wins that is obviously probably going to get a title shot after that. How will this match up with, RDR and Fluffy Hernandez? Because those guys are going to get the title shot next too. It's most likely whoever's going to win this UFC Paris card is going to be the rightful #1 contender, and whoever wins against RDR and Fluffy is going to have to probably wait around a little bit for the next title shot. I would assume so, just because these are going to be like two #1 contenders in the middleweight division going back to back. October or September 1st, and then October 2nd. So yeah, one of them is gonna have to wait. It's most likely gonna be the Vancouver card. But yeah, we know that matchup's happening. So what else could we possibly make for these guys? Now, I don't think I was originally gonna do DDP versus Fluffy, as I thought that was gonna be like a pretty sick fight and one that just makes sense based on the rankings, and kind of give Fluffy a clear shot to the title. A win against DDP would clearly make him right for a title shot, and unfortunately that's not going to happen. I think DDP is probably going to take quite a bit off, just time off, even though he really didn't take any damage in this fight against Khamzat Chimaev. I think he still wants to just kind of go back to the drawing board and kind of break down and get his just his takedown defense and his wrestling in check before he goes back in. I think he has a lot of work to do, and I respect him probably most likely trying to just take the time off and work on those issues he had against Chimaev. Because honestly, I mean, like, who would you even put him against? I mean, he's fought so many guys on this list. I mean, he's fought, he's fought Robert Whittaker, he's fought Izzy, he's fought Sean. It's like none of those matchups really make sense. Like, you could pair him against Brendan Allen, but it doesn't really make any sense. So I think DDP is going to kind of sit out for a bit, so I'm not going to include him in this list. But first, let's start off with an interesting fight that just took place over the weekend at UFC 319. Michael Venom Page versus Jared Cannonier. MVP came out victorious via decision. No surprise there, quite honestly. I think we all kind of suspected MVP would get a decision, as he just has no ability to finish in the UFC. But that's an impressive win for Michael Venom Page. He's ranked number 10 now based on these rankings currently on the UFC. And I could see a good fight being Michael Venom Page versus Robert Whittaker. I think it'd be a sick fight. They're both like blitzing type styles in the fight. I think this should be a 3-round fight. I don't think we should put Robert Whittaker through another 5 rounds. And honestly, it might get a little stale in 5 rounds as well, just because both these guys really don't have a lot of finishing potential. But I think this would be a sick fight, dude. It's just two very quick guys who could cause issues for both. It could be a nice bounce back win for Whittaker, or it could even be a nice win for someone like MVP, who can rely on his striking to just kind of win rounds and also not be too worried about the takedowns. I mean, Robert Whittaker does have decent wrestling. It's not like it's a big part of his game. So, if Robert is going to win, I'm sure he's going to probably mix in that takedown and the takedowns and the wrestling. But this could be a pretty sick fight, and I think it would be very interesting to see as maybe a featured fight or something of a pay-per-view event, or whatever it may be called going forward. A UFC 3 24 or 25 or whatever, you know, since we're moving away from the pay-per-view kind of standard from now on. So next, this one might be a little controversial. I don't know exactly what to do with Israel Adesanya, but you could do Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Now I know these guys have already fought before, so it's not like it's a crazy matchup that, you know, would be super exciting, but I think with that impressive win that Paulo Costa is coming off of against Roman Kopylov, where everybody doubted him, dude, everybody discounted Paulo Costa, and he went out there and, you know, really just impressed a lot of people. Now, I mean, could that been just like a terrible game plan for Roman Kopylov? You know, could he just came into that fight looking terrible and just, you know, make Paulo Costa look so good? Possibly, but I think Paulo Costa is still decently a top level middleweight. I mean, he's ranked number 13, so not too impressive, but, you know, I think he wants a crack at that 10 spot. And I think something like Israel Adesanya could be an interesting matchup. I mean, I know Izzy kind of dominated him in the title shot Costa got, but we've seen that Izzy's just not the same fighter as he used to be. You know, he's coming off a 3-fight losing streak. You know, losing against Sean Strickland, losing against DDP, and now losing against Imavov. It's just not a good look. I think this could be a really nice bounce back win for someone like Costa. Or it could be very bounce back win for Adesanya, my mistake. Or it could be a great way for Costa to get a big jump up in the division and possibly work himself up to another title shot. So, might be pretty interesting, quite honestly. I like this matchup, but, you know, maybe like a Paulo Costa versus Brendan Allen could be interesting as well. But I think Brendan Allen kind of deserves a step up in competition coming off of that win against Vettori, you know, fighting someone who would boost him up in the rankings. And honestly, I think whoever wins the UFC Paris, which will most likely be Imavov, I think Kyle Brahalo versus Brendan Allen would be pretty sick. I think that would be a very nice, just like, no chance for Brendan Allen to step up, and also for Brahalo to get a win or whatever it may be. So I think that might be an interesting matchup going forward, as, you know, most likely Imavov is set to win and get that title shot. Kind of a random one that I kind of thought about that would be quite interesting is, he's outside of the rankings, but it's Gregory Rodriguez versus Marvin Vettori. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about this one. It's kind of one I kind of just threw together and kind of thought about a little bit, and could be actually pretty sick because you got Gregory Rodriguez, who's a heavy puncher, a heavy striker who can knock you out, against someone who is a, you know, just a cube head and just can just march forward and take so many damn shots. In Marvin Vettori, who's never been knocked out in the UFC. So he could be like some guy, you know, like Gregory Rodriguez, throwing those heavy strikes, but Marvin Vettori could weather an early storm and be able to win the later rounds, you know, round 2 or round 3. You know, we've seen Gregory Rodriguez gas out in the past against someone like Jared Cannonier, so this could be a nice win for Marvin Vettori. I know it wouldn't give him any boost in the rankings, but maybe it may show that this guy is still top level. I know you don't really want to put Marvin Vettori up against someone that's dangerous like him, just because Marvin Vettori's kind of been on the downslope, and you don't really like to see it just because of everything he's been through. So you kind of feel bad for the guy, but I think this would be a sick matchup, you know? Like I said, you know, Rodriguez is a heavy puncher. Marvin Vettori, you know, just uncrackable chin, it seems. Could be very, very interesting. So that's about all the matchups I have for this video. I really don't know what to do with Sean Strickland. he's kind of just going to be sitting idle. I don't know. I think he's banned right now, so I don't even know what we're going to do with him. Maybe if things don't work out with, you know, MVP and he goes back down to welterweight to fight, you know, someone like Carlos Prates, which I would hate for him to see. You know, I would hate that matchup, honestly. I really don't want to see. It would be interesting in a way, but then again, like, I don't know why you just stay here in middleweight, you know, like, why cut down again? It's just, I don't see the point, especially if you're having success and kind of just the faster fighter against these guys. So if that doesn't work out and he goes down, or MVP goes down to welterweight, maybe Robert Whittaker versus Sean Strickland could be cool. I don't know how soon these guys can return, but you know, we'll just have to see, and only time will tell. Other than that, you know, Jared Cannonier is coming off that loss. I'm sure he's not going to bounce back right away. Maybe Jared Cannonier versus Roman Dolidze, you know, both coming off losses, and that could kind of just, you know, complete the entire middleweight division, you know, just with the current matchmaking system. So yeah, it's very interesting, this division. I'm a little iffy on the whole champion thing, just because I really did like DDP as champion, and I did want to see him win once again. But Khamzat just came out there and was able to smudge him and win a decision. So dominant fight, dominant champion so far, but we'll have to see in his next title defenses, which will be against, most likely be against Imavov or the winner of Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus RDR. It could also be Kyle Brahalo. I shouldn't discount him, actually. You know, whoever wins UFC Paris and whoever wins UFC Vancouver. So very interesting what's going on in the middleweight division. I'm excited to see what comes next. And yeah, that's going to wrap up the video. So I hope all of you enjoyed. If you guys have any ideas for any type of matchups that you would like to see in the future in the middleweight division, or even just in general, any of the matchups in the other divisions that you find interesting, or you know, what fight you're looking forward to most in October, because this is looking to be a very, very stacked month. We got, you know, Alex Pereira versus Big Ink, and then, you know, obviously Sandhagen versus Merab, Yuri versus Khalil, and we got Oliveira versus Vazeev. We got, you know, the RDR versus Fluffy, and then finally we got Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall. So it's a very stacked month. So maybe let me know what you guys think about all that's happening in the UFC and what you guys think. So I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next video. Until next time.